Hey, so I just got back from watching The Rise of Skywalker, and here are my initial reactions. So basically, all the criticisms that you're gonna hear about the film, the video game plotting, the contrivances, the massive plot holes, the MacGuffins, the speed at which people go from one place to another, all of that is true. And you're going to see all these criticisms in other people's reviews. But here's my thought. Despite all of this, it's because I actually read some of those reviews. I went in with my expectations slightly lowered, which I think helped me to enjoy the film a lot more. I've got to say, despite all of those criticisms, and all of that is true, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And my thought as I was watching the film was this. Do you remember the Harry Potter series? In the Harry Potter series, when we got to the final books and we started to learn about Horcruxes and in the final book, the Deathly Hallows, I always thought, you know what? I hate this bit. I hate, you know, these MacGuffins, they're not, I suppose they're not MacGuffins because they're central to the plot. But I just hated the idea of the Horcruxes having been there from book one, and the idea that, J.K. Rowling actually had this plan all along, because I always thought that was something she could easily have come up in book four as a very neat way of tying all of those elements together. And the thing is, even though I hated it at first, I learned to accept it. I learned to accept all the things that J.K. Rowling was doing because I love the Harry Potter series. And the same for Star Wars. I love it enough that I could accept all of those very valid criticisms and all the MacGuffins and all the fan service. And believe me, there is a lot of fan service in this film. It's absolutely true. I didn't mind it. Not only did I not mind it, I watched it, I saw what they were doing, and you know what? I actually applaud them for it. And it's the same reason as all the plot contrivances in Harry Potter. And there are contrivances. There's, I mean, you can say, oh, well, she plotted it all the way through. And the thing about The Rise of Skywalker is that you can tell they didn't have a plan all along. They didn't have a plan all along. You can tell. You can absolutely tell. But the things they use, the devices and the plots they use to tie everything up, it worked. It worked really well in some cases, and it worked really poorly to okay in other areas, but it worked. That's the whole point. And so, you know, even though all those criticisms are valid, they did not ruin the experience of the film for me. I appreciated what they were doing, and I, I you know what? There were lots of memorable moments. The action was fantastic. There were great emotional beats to the film. I mean, could it have been cut shorter? Was there fat that it could be cut? Yes, you could say that with any film. I suppose what I really loved about this film is that the retconning actually worked out better than I thought. The choices they made with certain characters worked out a lot better than I thought. And I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything at the moment, but there is a bit in film where you could tell it was an expensive cameo, shall we say? A very, very expensive cameo. I would say about $1 million per minute of screen time worth of cameo, but that's just a thought. And in that moment of the film, I thought, okay, what are they actually going to do here? I mean, you knew they were going in. You knew that there was a possibility of that kind of thing happening going into the film. But when it actually happened, you know what? I accepted it immediately, and I was happy with the decision. And I would say that's the fork in the road in the film where some people will be okay with the decision and some people would just be like, oh, well, it was so predictable, and they'll just think that the film didn't have the courage to be original. And again, that is an entirely valid criticism. The film is not as original as it could be. Is there a version out there that could be more original, that could be braver, that could be bolder and do things that we didn't expect? Yes, absolutely. But the version that they released to the cinemas that we saw, I've I've got no problem with that version. It is an acceptable version. I mean, is it a great film? To me, there's so many elements of greatness that yes, it is a great film. But again, I'll go ahead and say this: all of the criticism you hear about the film, that's that all applies. So take it how you take it the way you want it to. Okay, go in understanding that there are all of these flaws with the film. It is absolutely a flawed film, but if you love Star Wars enough, you will accept those flaws and you will enjoy the film. Now, that's not a recommendation for someone who doesn't like Star Wars to begin with. But then again, there can be an argument to be made. Yes, all films should be made for as if the audience has never seen any other films in the series. But let's be honest, is that really how we're going to judge every film? As if they have to stand on their own two legs? It's it's not something that we do with any. I mean, it's just not possible, is what I'm saying. Yes, we can make that criticism of, yeah, a film should be able to stand alone. Okay, fair enough. You get that. But this is a film with a devoted fan base, with people who have seen all the other films. That could You could argue that the only people who are going into to watch this film, and multiple times, I'm guessing, are people who have seen all the other films in the series. So no, it's not possible to think of this film as a standalone film, and that's okay. Because let's be honest, just the fan base alone, just people who've seen the other Star Wars films alone, would be all the revenue that the studios require. That's all they need. Just people who have seen the other films in the series. They do not need new audience. So yeah, I suppose at the end of the day, if you like and appreciate the Star Wars series and all of its mythos and just the thing that George Lucas created and some would argue ruined slightly, if you liked the world and the storyline, you will accept the flaws, you will accept the contrivances, you will accept the decisions that the filmmakers made in the same way you did with other film series that you've enjoyed in the past. You will look past the plot holes that, admittedly, yes, you can drive a train through it. And you will love those decisions. You will really, really enjoy the way that the film ties everything up, and especially the way the film ends. there are emotional beats towards the end of the film that were just like, wow. There was actually one moment where, let's be, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say what I'm about to say. There's a moment where you see two lightsabers, where basically two lightsabers are given to someone, and you could, I mean, on paper, you could tell exactly what's going to happen at the end. I wonder if those two lightsabers would be used at once. And you know what? Whilst I was watching the film, I completely forgot about how predictable that was. I completely forgot by the time the scene came where, there were two lightsabers, I'd completely forgotten. I completely forgotten how predictable that decision was. And I loved that scene. I loved the emotional beats of those final moments. So yeah, in general, despite everything, I loved The Rise of Skywalker. So, yeah. And you know what? If you're like me, you would too.